accredited investors to purchase the building so that
What does that mean?
accredited means if
it-
you're asking the question,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
not
not.
one.
Colorado House of Prayer. What's been happening there?
Well, it's a slow boat to China.
Welcome back to the Colorado House of Prayer podcast, where we pursue a lifestyle of worship, unity, and intercession to see Jesus glorified in every sphere of society. I'm your host, Ed, and today we're continuing our journey through the House of Prayer for All Nations with the author Blake Busch. Say hi, Blake.
Hi, Blake.
We begin our discussion on chapter 4, his plan, the House of Prayer. And so today we're going to continue in this chapter and we're going to talk about prayer and nations. But first of all, Blake, why don't you give us an update about Colorado House of Prayer? What's been happening there?
Well, it's a slow boat to China.
Yeah.
We're probably 5% of the vision. But, people continue to come in and encounter the Lord, get blessed.
Yeah.
We continue to, add some worship leaders and prayers. And we are just recently starting up an arts group. So gathering artists and trying to break into that sphere of society and bring prayer and worship alongside of creatives. So that's been pretty fun. And then we're in the midst of finding accredited investors to purchase the building so that...
What does that mean?
Accredited means if you're asking the question,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
not one.
Nope, I'm not one.
Accredited investor just means someone of a net worth of $1 million that just must have some type of financial savvy to not get scammed.
Yeah.
And it's not a scam, but that's the requirement. So
Nope,
we're looking for accredited investors.
that's not me.
Just the building. The ministries there will actually rent from this ownership group and be a big blessing. So that's another topic for another time.
Oh, yeah.
But so that's going.
That's
and
great.
So just slow build of the ministry and loving Jesus and loving the people that come in there and just finding a long-term solution to keep that building in the kingdom until he comes again.
Well, the few times that I'm there a week, every time it's alive.
Yeah.
So there's life there every time, every single time I'm there. There's something happening.
Yeah.
People are getting saved. I see people at the altar.
Yeah. He's
see
a good worship leader too.
I see people coming in just right off the streets and just sitting and listening and then end up weeping.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's full of life there.
Yeah. We had last week a lady come in, really get ministered to, and then we're hopefully remembering to ask, what brought you in? She said, I was shopping in Target and I had this impression. She didn't say God, but she just said, I had this impression I needed to go outside and around the corner and look for an open door.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, that was it. Yeah. I just was in Target and I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go find that open door.
No.
So she came in and got ministered to.
It's so cool. There's so many cool stories that happen there. Well, let's get to this. The House of Prayer for All Nations. The book is out right now. You can get your copy. To Build an Altar by Every Throne. This is written by none other than Blake Busch. And so we're going to get into finishing chapter 4 today. The second part, go to listen to 1 if you haven't yet, because that will help you to understand this podcast second. So let's make sure that we're listening to the first one and then now the second one. So
Part 1, Part 2. Yeah.
Part 1, Part 2. So why did Jesus call it a house of prayer?
Yeah. So
Simple question. Start right there.
that's it. Why house of prayer? I just think that the name defines the activity or the content of it. It's kind of like if you say, I'm going to Ace Hardware. You expect to go in there and you don't go in and find hamburgers.
Yeah.
You go in to find hardware.
Right.
So the name defines it. And I think he's basically giving an identity to the church. He's speaking something.
Yeah.
And more than just it's a name, like First Christian Church, he's actually saying, this is the name of my church. And the name defines the activity. That's why house is family. So first of all, he's just saying it's a family. That's what we talked about in Part 1. This week, it's about a prayer. In other words, it's built on families, but it's prayer-centered and mission-driven for the nations. So prayer is the central activity. He's declaring it. He's, in essence, kind of commanding it. Like, I want my people, the first thing that you're going to be known for is prayer.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. I want to actually ask you, Think about your church in California. Will remain unnamed. Give a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is bad or non-existent. 10 is great.
Yeah.
Firing all cylinders.
Right.
Rate family, rate prayer and worship, and then rate missional activity to people groups.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, 1 to 10.
10 being high.
10 being high. So let's go family feel.
Man, I would say a 2 or a 3.
Oh, 2 or 3. Okay.
Yeah, it's, again, I think you heard me talk a little bit about it last time. And I'm not saying that every mega church has the corporate feel within staff, but this one did.
Right. Okay.
And so, okay, now
2 or 3. Now, of prayer, the nature, the vibrancy of prayer, worship.
Yeah,
in the
that was pretty high.
Good.
That one's pretty high. I think I'd give it. We used to have intentional at the beginning of the year, and a lot of churches do, the 21 days of prayer and fasting. And then every quarter we would have this thing called the outpouring, which would bring people together from all churches in the area. And we would have worship and prayer, and it would go on for a few hours.
Sweet.
And then I just think within the staff, I think the lead pastor was intentional about prayer. I think he was a prayer person.
So 1 to 10, it would be
yeah. So I'd give it maybe a 7.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then the missional aspect to the people beyond the gathering of the church into the when I say nations, I don't mean what was international missions. I just mean beyond, out into the community, into the nations.
Man, that's hard. Mega churches, they're very attractional. And so you don't hear much about missionaries or missions. You don't hear much about hey, so Doug and Karen, they've been with us for years. They're now going into Indonesia. If something like that, people, maybe 10% of the people know who Doug and Karen are.
Right.
So you don't see that. But even locally and missionally locally, I would say I'd give it maybe a 4 or 5.
Okay. Let me ask it another way too. So that it's got some life there. It's good.
Yeah.
What about just equipping people to be missionaries in their environment?
Yeah. That's a good question. They had this thing, it was kind of like a school, more of a certification called, SGI, forget what that stands for now, but SGI, they had this thing where they would train people, more of a discipleship program.
Okay.
And training people to go into the world and reach people.
So 1 to 10.
Yeah. So on that one, I'd give about a 7 or an 8. I think they were very intentional about doing that. And also one cool thing that they used to do is on Wednesday nights, it was family night. And so what would happen on family nights is that every ministry in the church would come together. So the men's groups would come together, the women's groups, the youth, and then any other small groups. We would all come together and worship for like a few songs, and then everybody would spread out to their areas. And that was a good way to invite people into the church without it feeling like so much like a big church service.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not down and out on the local church.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that God is always trying to upgrade us.
Yeah.
We're moving from glory to glory.
Yeah.
So whatever glory we have, 4, 7, 6, he wants to make it a 5, 8.
Yeah.
So it's not that the church is bad. It's just that we tend to be stronger in one or two areas and weaker in one.
Well, how would you describe the prayer life of the American church then?
Well, that's interesting. I asked my congregation one time in a survey. I outlined about 25 different things that we do as churches, the activities.
Yeah.
Everything from Bible studies to fellowships to evangelism, outreach, missions, whatever. I put on their corporate prayer, corporate worship, counseling, every other activity they could think of.
Yeah.
And so I asked them to take a stab at it. I just said, American church, rate it from its strongest to its weakest activity, 1 to 25. Got them back, collated it, and it was no surprise to me. It was, take a guess at maybe the top 2 when you think about it. The top 2 things that are characteristics of church.
Yeah. Worship, kids
ministry.
Yeah.
I think the number one
potlucks.
Yeah, the number one thing that came back from this survey was teaching.
Oh, teaching. Yeah.
Like we're a teaching,
Right.
Especially now, get me on YouTube, get me on, write a book,
Right.
get a podcast,
Yeah. Teaching.
get on TV. Even Sunday mornings, it's skewed heavily towards teaching.
Yeah.
In a generic sense, in a generalism, the songs are to prepare for the message.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. If you're going to cut something out, then you're going to make sure to maintain the teaching time overall. So
That makes sense.
So what that survey came back to me was it's a house of teaching for all nations.
That's good.
And so where's prayer? Actually, that's in my survey.
Yeah.
Prayer was like corporate prayer was like 24th or 25th.
Wow.
I mean, really, think about what's the least popular meeting overall for churches.
Yeah.
The one that's hardest to get people to. It's a prayer meeting. Easier is Sunday morning where they maybe nothing's required of them. But once you get into prayer meetings, it's like something's required of me.
That's right.
And it's uncomfortable. So when you ask, what's the status of prayer in America, I would say we have, in a generalism sense, we have trained people to be observers. We have trained people to be attenders. What church do you attend? Instead of, do you participate in? And even in participation, it's easier to serve. Like, hey, I go to hand out food at the homeless bank or something like that.
Yeah.
But to say, hey, will you come and will you open your mouth and say something during corporate prayer? This is so intimidating. Well,
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons is I did a search of this like 2 weeks ago on Google about the phobias we have. It was like number 1 was like fear of snakes. Number 2 was fear of spiders. And number 3 was public speaking. And then number 4 was death. People would rather die than speak publicly.
or touch a spider.
Yeah, that's just right. Would you rather touch this spider? Pray publicly. And they're like, oh, I don't know. So I think it feeds into people's insecurities.
Yeah.
Because prayer is a vulnerable thing.
It is.
And if you just ask a group of 20 people sitting there, hey, let's just enter into prayer, how many in your sphere would pray outwardly?
Oh, I know. This just happened to us at our staff meeting this last week.
Yeah.
And someone was asked, if they could open in prayer, and they just froze.
Yeah.
And this is among people that we work with every day. So the pastor that was leading the meeting, he started to talk about it and try to ease this person's mind on you're just talking to God kind of thing, right?
Oh, I get it though. I remember I was at a wedding one time and we were beforehand, the wedding party was there and someone had asked like the best man or something like, will you just pray for this time? And you could just see him kind of freeze like this. And so we grabbed hands, which was awkward. And then he starts off, dear mother and father of God. And there's this little chuckle. And I'm like, oh, this poor guy's never going to pray out loud again. And you don't even know what to say. Dear mother and father, our God, Jesus.
Yeah, it's prayer. Prayer is a difficult thing. It really is, especially in public. It is a difficult thing for many. I mean, I guess I've done it for so long that it's It's just second nature to me now.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it, but I'm sure there was a time, especially when I first got saved, that, if I was asked to pray in front of a group of people, I probably froze up.
Yeah, I remember this one time. We were in a Friday night meeting, and there were these 3 college girls. It was the beginning of the semester, sitting over here, and we give an invitation to come up to the microphone and pray.
Yeah.
There was some silence, awkward silence, but I kind of let that just go. Like, I'm not letting people off the hook. And I saw this girl. She kind of got up, walked all around and prayed. And it was just a beautiful prayer, beautiful, heartfelt prayer. And I just affirmed her afterwards. I'm like, hey, just thanks for getting up to pray. And she was like, I was absolutely terrified to pray.
Wow.
But it was just like God kept saying, go up there. And she said, that's why I kind of got up and huff. Like, okay, I'll do this. But I think of all activities, it's the most powerful because it fuels everything.
Yeah.
It fuels the teaching. It fuels the evangelism. It fuels the fellowship. That's why Jesus said, look, the central activity has to be prayer. Everything's birthed out of prayer.
Yeah.
If you don't have a prayer life, you don't have an engine.
Yeah.
You don't have fuel. You don't have the roots. I was driving down the road one time and I saw this sign that said fresh cut Christmas trees. And immediately I thought, oh, a fresh cut tree is a dead tree. That's what that is. Yeah, it's cut off from the root life.
That's interesting.
On things. So, but it's interesting. We'll take this dead tree and we'll put it in a living room, put lights on it and sparkles and all this kind of stuff. And we know it. I mean, that's just how it goes for a Christmas tree. You don't plant a live Christmas tree in your family room.
Right.
But it's just interesting that's kind of the American church, is that the root system has kind of been severed if we don't have a pretty vibrant prayer life. And so there's no nutrients.
Right.
And we can dress it up, can make it look good, and it'll last a while.
Yeah.
But eventually we reap from prayerlessness. And so I just think
That's
that,
really good.
and two, you had mentioned discipleship. When I think about discipleship, I think about all the disciplines that are involved and all the topics. Like if you were to disciple somebody, you'd cover a lot of different topics. Things from like tithing, serving, sharing your faith.
Right.
Characters, fruits of the Spirit,
Right.
diligence. I mean, there's just a lot. One time I took all of my books on discipleship
Yeah.
in my library. I probably had about 20 of them or whatever. So I took every line item in the index
Right.
and just coalesced all of them about what topics were covered.
Yeah.
And I noticed that prayer was mentioned like just a few times. And worship was probably hardly mentioned at all.
Right.
But everything else was covered in it. And so I thought, we don't even do a great job of discipling people into this. So it's not just the people. It's just that our churches don't disciple people into how to pray or how to pray corporately. And so I think we kind of suffer from that. And perhaps we don't really quite understand that if you want to be like Jesus, you got to do what Jesus did.
Right.
And so he was a son first and foremost.
Right.
So and because of his sonship, he learned obedience to the point of death upon a cross, but he could go there knowing that his father was going with him because he was his son. So there's intimacy, there's love. So we have to be like Jesus in being a son or a daughter. You got to know who you are.
That's right.
But you also have to be a king.
Yeah.
Because he's a king. He's the king of kings.
Yeah.
He's the king of the nations. So we have to have this heart for the nations and going. But he's also this priest. He's a high priest. So if you want to be like Jesus, you got to pray like Jesus prayed.
Yeah. And he taught us how to pray.
He taught us how to pray.
Do you think in the Lord's Prayer, he talks about, because I know the one part is our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Do you think in there we're supposed to be praying for nations?
I do. As a matter of fact, man, that may be a good segue into talking about the nations because Jesus said basically our prayer is not supposed to just be inward focused. We're not just supposed to sit at his feet and enjoy him and just be intimate with him. That's true. We have to be connected to the vine. But he's like, look, you have to have this outflow to other people. It has to flow to the nations. That's why he didn't just say, my dwelling place is a house of prayer.
Yeah.
Stop.
Right.
End of point. No, he said, it's for all nations.
Yeah.
And I used to think that was, hey, this house of prayer, we're just praying for the nations.
Yeah.
And that's good to pray for the nations.
Right.
But it's supposed to be a house of prayer of all nations. It's supposed to incorporate all people.
Mhm.
So there's a strong missional component to the house of prayer.
Right.
If it's not driven by missions, it's inward focused. And in Ezekiel, when it talks about the river that flows from the temple, it says under the threshold, it goes out to the nations, and it's alive with fish and life. And then it has these trees on the banks, and its leaves are the healing for the nations. You see this river of God flowing from the temple out into the nations. But what's interesting is it says that there are a few tributaries that flow into the swamp. And it says they're salty and they're dead. So you have this living water flowing from the temple, but it goes into a swamp. What's a swamp? The swamp is something where it's a dead end.
Yeah.
It doesn't flow out
Right.
to anything. It just dead ends.
Right.
And so a dead end pond stagnates.
Right.
It gets salty.
Right.
There's no life.
Right.
It gets dead. And I think that's why the house of prayer can't be a swamp. We can't be swampy. We can't just be inward focused. It's just about me and Jesus and nothing else. It's like, no, it actually has to have this strong missional drive to the nations for it to really carry life. So
how are we supposed to pray for the nations?
well, first of all, defining nations is helpful. The word ethnos
Yeah, that's good.
means people groups. It brings this idea of distinction. So people groups or nations can be broadly defined or narrowly defined. Narrowly would be like the nations is Germany, Italy, Scandinavia.
Yeah.
That's a nation.
Right.
But I think the idea of nations can be smaller than that. Like in the United States, we have a Navajo nation.
That's right.
So that's a nation of people.
Yeah.
Well, what about in our city of Fort Collins? Is Colorado a nation? Well, in some ways it is. It's a people group. But if you look at people group as a group of people with a distinct language, culture, maybe calling, some other characteristics that define it or identify it, I think about like teachers. Teachers in Fort Collins actually have an affinity, a role, a language, a culture,
Yeah, sure.
and a role. So I've kind of defined for me pretty broadly the word ethnos to just mean anything with those distinct culture, language, calling, identity.
That's really good. Sometimes when I see motorcycle people, that's a
a nation.
culture. They have their own. They have
motorcycle
hand
nation.
signals,
Yeah.
Waving to
Yep.
each other.
Yep.
Their own clothing. I mean, everything. It's
Yeah.
a nation, really.
It is.
Even people that drive Jeeps,
That's a nation.
they have their own. So
Yeah.
so that totally makes sense of what you're
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
because that could be the nation.
That is. And so with that, I've looked at, hey, there's different culture groups in Fort Collins. So we're supposed to be a house of prayer of those people groups.
Yeah.
That's why we're beginning to gather the artists.
Yeah.
Artists have a particular language
Yep.
and culture
That's right.
and vibe and feel
Yeah.
and affinity. And so how does it, impact the house of prayer? It just means we are looking for those people groups
Yeah.
and to bring prayer and worship. I was just talking with a gentleman yesterday. He's an inventor. And I keep saying, hey, someday we're going to have a tech inventors group because that's a nation. I remember the first time the only time I worked for a tech company. This is between gigs of church gigs and I needed income before we planted Third Day. So I got hired at this local tech company. And how I got hired was just a simple move of God because I was in this testing group with people that had just gotten laid off from HP. So these are like master level technicians and programmers and, highly educated people. And I never forget the first meeting we sat around and the guy who hired me said, hey, when we come around to you, don't say anything. He's like, just nod. And I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I'll kind of cover for you. But if they ask you anything, just kind of nod. So I remember why, because when we were going around talking about our projects, I could not understand. I mean, they could have been speaking a foreign language.
Yeah.
I had no clue what they were talking about.
Right.
Because that tech people have that language.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of there's a tech nation.
Yeah.
There's a Navajo nation. There's a teachers nation. There's a bikers nation.
Yeah.
So the idea is that, God wants all nations. He wants all people groups.
Yeah.
He doesn't want just the religious class over here. He wants his kingdom to be ubiquitous. He wants it to be everywhere. So that's
good.
The outward focus of the house of prayer.
That's good. Well, Blake, thanks so much for your faithfulness to the call upon your life.
Oh.
Thanks so much. And for casting vision with God's word. Friends, I want to just thank you for joining us today. Please remember that the House of Prayer for All Nations is available now. And I just want to encourage you to live on mission. Start your prayer life if you haven't already. It sometimes feels like you can get stuck in that, but I'm telling you, if you have it, do it. And next time you're asked to pray in front of a group of people, have faith that God is going to help you and give you the words to pray, and you can pray. And so until next time, I'm excited about what we're doing here and where we're going. And there's the new chapters that are coming up. And so thanks so much. We will see you next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us.